Welcome back to the 1090 podcast. I'm here with Jeremy Macy. I almost named my daughter Frankie Macy,
Well, that's awesome.
but we figured Courtney thought it was too close to Mason, so we went with Frankie.
Oh, there you go.
I like that name.
Yeah.
Not a good story like usual. If you're on the 1090 podcast, your life probably sucks. So not good.
You've been through some shit.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
It's not good for you. So I'm sorry you're here.
I love it.
I'm just going to ask some questions here at the beginning. They're kind of weird and funny, but they're just get to know you questions.
Okay.
And then we'll dive into it.
Love it.
Question number 1. If you were a fruit tree, what fruit would you grow and why?
Honeycrisp apples, because I love Honeycrisp apples. I cut them up, mix them with some peanut butter and honey. It's like my healthy treat. It's like the one thing that's like it satisfies the candy craving.
You would have thought I sent you these questions before or something.
No, I literally had a
answer.
Yeah, I was ready.
What about apples and caramel though?
Yeah, I mean that's
But
okay.
Peanut butter is better.
Peanut butter with honey.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so you get a little bit more sweet.
Okay.
I like sweet.
Next question. Would you rather be a stay-at-home dad and not make any money, or you can never eat meat ever again?
Yeah, I'd much rather be a stay-at-home dad.
That's an easy one. Yeah, you're living the life.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
what's wrong with
You're
that
just
at
playing
all.
with the kids all day.
Sign me up.
Yep.
And I'll have a burger as well.
100%.
Yeah.
We'll wait till mom gets home to discipline you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be her problem.
Yes.
You can go to any major sporting event. Any. You can go to the World Series, Super Bowl, NBA Finals, Boston Marathon, front row, wherever you want to sit. You can go to any event. What are you picking?
Champions League.
Is that
Champions League
is
final.
that golf?
No, that's soccer.
Oh Lord. So you're a soccer guy.
I love soccer.
That's
Yeah.
great.
I still play on like 3 different teams during the week. Gets my aggression out so I don't kill someone.
Why not make it so there's more scoring though? Like take some guys.
Well,
off
there's
the field.
indoor. There's indoor, which is basically like basketball.
Mm,
And there's like 8 or 9 goals a game or more.
gotcha.
So the hard part is that like outdoor soccer is like chess. There's 11 v 11.
It is like chess. It's very slow and yeah.
But if you understand the mechanics of the game, it's fast paced. Like some of the best football, like Barcelona, Man City right now is playing the best football out there, which hurts my heart.
You could be lying through your teeth right now. I'd have no idea. I don't know. All right, you like soccer. Good.
Yep. It'd be basically playing on double the size of a basketball court with 11 v 11.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it is. So you can imagine how hard it'd be able to score, to get an opportunity to score like that when you have.
Just remove the goalie. No goalie.
There you go.
That'd be cool.
The defenders would just stand there.
Next question.
Okay.
Would you rather claim Nickelback as your favorite band ever or claim to be a flat earther?
That's a good question. I would say probably Nickelback.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Never made it as a wise man. Never made it as a poor man.
I mean,
in the shower, I sing that once a week.
You
I
gotta-
just do. Let's not act like we hate them. They're good.
100%. They're
fine.
good. They're talented.
Flat earther?
Yeah, flat earthers weird.
Yeah, I flew to Australia. It's not flat. Yeah, it's not.
It's not.
Okay.
Especially if you're flying up that high, you can see the curvature of the earth, or it's the airplane windows.
You thought
One of the
about it
two.
though. Like you had to.
I
think
have thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You're taking a girl out on a first date. Like
Okay.
you're not married, whatever.
Okay.
But you have to take a girl out first date. What's like your go-to first date? This is what you like to do in your wheelhouse.
All right. Either a movie. I love going to movies, so take them to the movies, dinner, movie, or bridge jumping. Have you
That's
ever-
the opposite of going to a movie.
yeah,
Bridge jumping. Like
bridge jumping,
bungee or just into the water?
just into the water. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, or cliff jumping. One of the two. I mean, 6s in my book. Yeah.
I didn't see you're kind of an adrenaline junkie.
I do like adrenaline. I mean, I ran with the Bulls last year, so.
How was that?
Dude, it was.
Did you have a close
scary.
call?
For sure. Like literally, I had this bull plow down 3 guys in front of me. I dodged out of the way, and then I got caught in a human pile, and just like that, the bulls were past you. Like the bulls are on you, and then they're off you within like a couple seconds.
Was your heart just thumping?
Oh my gosh, dude. Oh my gosh. Like you have this adrenaline where you're just like, I just survived death. Like you're just like so ecstatic about it.
Did anyone die that day from the bull?
No, one of our guys did get plowed over by a bull though.
And he was the hero of the day then.
Yeah, for sure. Got a couple scrapes on his elbows. He was good.
Last question.
Okay.
It's the weirdest one. Would you rather have 1 arm or 3 arms, but the 3rd arm is like a toddler arm and you cannot get it removed?
Okay, repeat the question.
Would you rather have 1 arm or you have 3 arms, but the 3rd arm is a toddler arm and you can't get it removed? Like you can't have surgery.
Yeah, three arms for sure.
Really?
Yeah. You could do multiple things with it. Like you get like little things.
Toddler arm.
Toddler arm.
And you don't know where it's growing from.
Oh, you don't know where it's growing?
You don't know where it's going to end up. It could be like it could be out of your kneecap that we don't know. And you can't get it removed.
I was going to say a funny joke, but I won't say it.
I think I know where you're headed.
Could have been.
Which opened my idea. Like, man, I'm going 3 arms now.
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
All right, 3 arms. Music's in. Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it. Welcome back to the 1090 Podcast, where life's 10% what happens to you and 90% of the time Ryan's fixing the camera. Yeah. Sorry. And we're here with Jeremy. Jeremy, I usually read the obituary, and I could not find your mom's, dude.
Yeah.
And so I apologize for that. I like reading that because it's an easy shift because we go from joking to like, okay, now we're talking about grief. Not that you can't joke as you talk about grief, but
yeah.
Anyway, I just couldn't find it, man.
Yeah, it was interesting when you asked me about it. I was like, oh, I've never even tried to look for it.
Yeah.
Never even looked for it. So
he passed away in 94.
Passed away in 94.
That makes it harder usually, but
yeah. Yeah.
You want to just tell us a little bit about her at the beginning, and then we'll start with your story.
Okay. Yeah. So my mom, she's originally from Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yeah, she was a Pittsburgh Steelers fan from Harrisburg. She's one of 2 children. My mom was a genius. She was really, really smart. She was a nurse, registered nurse. We lived in Las Vegas, and she was a diabetes nurse. So she was one of the specialists where everyone would go to her. Doctors would go to her. A ton of people would just go to her on diabetes specifically. She was also really, really social, very, very social person. And she met my dad through his LDS mission. So he actually baptized her on his mission. Yeah, for sure.
That's so cool.
And they wrote for 4 years. And my dad,
long distance relationship.
Yeah, long distance relationship. He was living in Pasadena, California, and she was in Harrisburg. Actually, where was she? Yeah, she was actually in Pittsburgh going to school. And so they would write back and forth. She knew right away that he was going to be her husband.
Love it.
And my dad was just oblivious. My dad didn't know anything. So, so I have a good mix. I have like my dad, not very smart. My mom, freaking smart. No, my dad's smart, but in different ways. But
good save.
100%.
Have you reached the age where you're becoming your dad? Or
a little bit.
I'm starting to like, I say something like, that was my dad.
Yeah, my wife will point out things like, that's an Edism, because my dad's Ed, so we call him Special Ed. So yeah, they ended up getting married in the Idaho Falls Temple, and then had my brother, and then had me 4 years later. So when I was about 2, she was diagnosed with cancer.
Sorry, I just want to clarify. So it's just you and your brother.
It's just me and my brother.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was 2. My brother's 4.5 years older than me. So he's 6.5. That's when she was diagnosed with cancer. And she fought it for 4 years. So when I was 6, she passed away, leaving me, my dad, and my brother to kind of fend for ourselves.
I really I'm very interested in your story and what you have to say, because Blue, car accident with my family. Blue was 3, but he was about to turn 4. He's like a week away from turning 4. So, you're 2 to 6 years old. Like, what do you remember?
I have very limited memories of my mom. So I was in the room when she passed away, but
do you remember that?
I remember that specifically. I remember like a couple birthdays. I remember one night, like my mom crying because my brother wouldn't get his homework done, and she sat him down and was like chewing him out. So I remember that. I remember her having friends over. She bought me this really cool fire station when I was little that was like Elmo, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, and you would like slap it down and it would pop open. I remember that. And then I remember her not having hair, and I remember her playing with her fake. She had these prosthetic breast implants.
And you were just playing with them.
And I would just play with them because they were just lying out there. Yeah. So, but yeah, like I have very little memories of her, even though I was 6 when she passed. So
what, how do I ask this? So one of the worries I have with Blue is I don't know what I'm not sure what he remembers, what he doesn't. To me, it doesn't seem like he remembers a lot, just with how good he's doing.
Yeah.
But I'm hurting really bad. Blue knows that. Blue knows. The way he comes up and hugs me and talks to me and says, "Dad, it's okay." When I get frustrated, you can just tell he's very worried about me. He's a very observant kid.
Yeah.
Did you ever experience guilt, not really knowing her, or maybe not? Maybe okay. Sorry, I don't. Okay. You don't remember her that well, and she's dead, and you're not struggling with grieving over your dead mom. Did you ever feel grief, or did that ever happen?
I didn't know what was going on. Honestly, I remember her funeral. So my mom passed away with us in the room. So I remember the ambulance coming to pick her up, taking her to the hospital. We followed in the car, went to the hospital, and me and my brother were in the room. My dad was actually out of the room filling out some paperwork. And my mom, when she passed, she actually reached up to the sky and then took her last breath. And I remember that vividly. And then I remember seeing her again in the casket when we did the burial, and not really knowing what was going on. My aunt was sitting front row, and she would just kind of smile at me, and I was just kind of oblivious. I didn't really. Either I disassociated or...
Well, that's the thing. That's what makes it tough with the age, is the dissociation and your brain just not remembering things to protect you.
Yeah.
Plus the young age. It's just what do you
do?
Yeah, what do you remember?
Yeah. Like Will Ferrell and Talladega Nights. What do you do with your hands?
I don't know what to do with my hands. What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, what do I do with my hands? It's a lot of that feeling. It's not knowing what to do. My dad's grieving. I didn't know how to help my dad. My brother took it a lot harder than what I did because he was a little bit older.
That was my next question. Ed, your dad.
Yeah.
What's it like for you having a dad who just lost his wife? Do you remember any challenges that way?
For sure. So my dad was, in order to try to cope with the depression and everything, was taking antidepressants, trying to figure out how to overcome his feeling, and it kind of made him a little bit crazy, and to the point to where he would lash out and he'd physically abuse us. So From the time that after my mom died to about 8.5, my dad would physically beat me and my brother all the time. I remember we lived in a really, really poor part of town in Las Vegas, North Las Vegas. We had gunshots from our doorstep. Like, it was pretty ghetto. And then after my mom passed away, I don't know if it was survivor benefits or what it was, but all of a sudden we could afford a house. So we went and bought a house that had a swimming pool, was super excited about it. But there was times, like, for instance, my dad took a rubber rat to us for every door that was left unlocked in North Las Vegas. Like, he just kind of would unload on us. And I think it's because how much pain he was going in and how he felt, and he just didn't know how to release it or get rid of it. Or, I mean, therapy back then wasn't really something that happened, or you didn't really talk about that.
Guys today don't talk about it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's way better than it was back then. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. What do you, so a rubber
rat. So, like, this was a chew toy for one of our dogs that we had.
Yeah.
And this rubber rat left like massive welts. So for every door that we left unlocked, my dad whipped us with it, to the point where it left marks. A teacher saw my brother's welts at school, and Child Protective Services were called.
So hold on. I want to talk. So how old are you? You're your dad's hitting you.
So between 6.5 to 8.5.
What, I mean, I know this is a very stupid question in one way, like, because I'm going to ask you what was, like, how did that make you feel? Obviously, it's not going to be good, but I do want to ask you, like, your mom's dead.
Yeah.
Now it's your dad and he's abusing you. What's going through your mind as a kid? Do you talk about it with your brother? How are you dealing with this?
I thought something was wrong with me. So that's something that I've struggled with all my life, is that I've always felt like something was wrong with me.
And I think that's how most kids feel.
Yeah.
It's my fault.
Yeah, it's my fault. Why am I leaving my dad's house? Why is this happening? For sure. Like, it was a challenge. I think now that I go back, and I've done some inner child work and different things like that, and gone back to times where I always felt like something was wrong with me, or I just was too hyper. I was too energetic, and because I was so hyper and energetic, that something was off with me, when really I was just a kid.
I'm so sorry, dude. This is shitty.
Yeah. Well, it only gets worse from there.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay. Let's keep going.
from that, when Child Protective Services were called, we went into a child's haven. And so we were taken out of my dad's care.
Did your dad fight for it? Like, no? Or was he like, yeah, whatever?
He did. Yeah. Eventually he got his rights back. And so because of that, my aunt on my mom's side adopted us. So we actually went and lived with them up in Reno, Nevada for a couple of years. But they were alcoholics. And so they would drink, eat food, or do different things, and then they would just lash out at us. And
so you went from one physical abused house to another.
I went from one physical abuse to mental abuse. So they told us that we were nothing, that they saved us from, my dad, this evil person. They put all sorts of stories that my mom was going to leave my dad and all sorts of stuff. And I didn't know what was true, I didn't know if my mom was going to leave my dad or not, or anything, but it just kind of tainted the whole story. So, my uncle was a Vietnam vet, and he had a lot of trauma just in general from that. And, so he'd make us stand at attention, staring at walls for hours on end while they're like drinking, eating food, watching TV or whatever. Like, we were being punished constantly. Like, for the 2 years, I can only remember playing maybe 5-10 times. So from there was one night that they screamed at us until like 2 a.m. This is after about a year and a half living with them. Our neighbors actually heard my uncle screaming at us till 2 a.m. And we ended up going from there. Child Protective Services were called again. They came to my school, asked us what was going on. I was honest. I was like, they just scream and yell at us all the time. Like, there would be times that they would drink eat food and then blame it on us, and they would make us write 500 times, I will not steal a cheese, or I will not do this. And so like it just reinforced that same sort of like feeling, something's wrong with me. Something's off with me.
Yeah, most kids that go to school, they're not dealing with this, and it's because they're not me. It's my fault.
Yeah, it's got to be my fault. Like, yeah. And so from there, we went into foster care. And so I lived in foster care from the time that I was like 10 to 12. And then during that whole time period, from the time that we left my dad to I was 12, he fought to get his rights back. So my dad got his rights back. We ended up moving in with him when I was 12. But my dad would have this explosive anger still. Like he just didn't know how to process emotions.
Like maybe 3 good days.
Yeah.
With him, and then
yeah. Yeah. And so it wasn't until I was about 15 when the abuse finally stopped. So it wasn't until I could stand up to my dad and say, you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. So there was times that he would grab my hair, slam me against the car dash, front dash. And I was just a kid. I mouthed off. Like there's still a part of me that thinks that's like, maybe I instigated a little bit, but
look at you still thinking it's your fault. You poor bastard.
100%.
Man, that's so terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely challenging. And then not only that, dude, like, yeah, it was, I don't think I ever got to truly mourn my mom because there was just so much transition in my life from the time that she died to, till we moved back in with my dad.
You as a kid, you've never had like a secure attachment your whole life.
Yeah. And that's actually been something that I've had to work on with my wife, like feeling safe and secure in our relationship, and just like something's still off with me or something's wrong with me. Like that's something that I have to continue to battle. And so the only time I ever really got attention was either when I was acting out or if I was achieving something. So I became a hyperachiever. So like no matter what I did, I was like, okay, if I gotta do this, maybe I'll be loved.
Did you have like a good friend group going to school? Was there anyone else that kind of helped you get through this? Or
I mean, I had really good leaders. Like I grew up in the LDS faith, so I had really good scout leaders. We had a lot of fun. We went camping all the time. I had some really good friends. Honestly, like the way I look at it is my friends were always kind of my family. And I've kind of explained that to my wife a little bit, is because we've had conversations in and around that where it's like, I've never truly felt secure with my own family. And so I've always gone with my friends, and my friends were always the ones that validated me. They were always the ones that supported me, always ones that loved me. There wasn't any conditions attached to it.
Standing up to your dad, I want to talk about that moment. Was that like, what did that feel like? Were you scared to do it? Was it like in the moment type thing? Like I've had enough, or were you thinking about it?
Yeah. I mean, it was just finally like I was big enough and strong enough that I knew I could fight off my dad. Honestly, that's what it was.
And what was your brother doing?
My brother wasn't really around when my dad would lash out physically. Yeah. My brother was a football player. When he could drive, and like as soon as we moved to Rexburg, Idaho, he was like just ready to like get out and have fun. So
yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, 100%. He was just ready to go have fun with his friends and everything. So, and he was always gone. He was always busy, always doing stuff.
What's your relationship with your brother now?
Really close. Yeah. Yeah, we're really close. So, yeah, like, I mean, fast forward to where we're at today. Like we moved my dad and my brother out of their apartment that I grew up in. They moved in with us for about a year. And then my wife was like, okay, time is up. We need to get them out and have them kind of go live their own lives and everything. So it was really cool to be able to be there to support my dad, be there to help him. Because I've done a lot of work in realizing that my dad, even though he was imperfect, He was an improvement on his father. And then my grandfather is an improvement on his grandfather. And so I actually got a call about 2 months ago that my dad was dying. And so he's been fighting leukemia for about 2 years now. But he was in kidney failure. And so my brother had called me and told me that dad's in the hospital. Not sure if he's going to make it or not. And I'm like, oh shit. So
how would you describe your relationship with your dad when you get that phone call?
I mean, right now,
it's like when you got the phone call.
When I got the phone call, I was like, I need to let him know that he lived a good life, even though it wasn't perfect.
So it wasn't great, but like it was like you wanted to be there for him and communicate love.
For sure. I mean, my dad taught me some really good lessons. Like, I mean, we're focusing on a lot of the negative things that have happened, but there's also a lot of positivity that has happened. And I think when you think about like the bad things that have happened in your life, like you can either focus on all the negative things and all of the problems that happened as a result of those things that happened, or you can focus on the gifts that were in it. So for me, my dad taught me what not to do in a lot of different cases with my 3 kids. Not to emotionally react, not to lash out in anger, or if I need to step away, I can step away without hitting my kids. Yeah. And then not only that, my dad taught me how to earn. And that was one thing, is that my dad always told me, like, if I ever wanted to do something, if I ever wanted to go get something, it's like I had to go earn it. So it's like clean up the house. Like if I wanted friends over, clean up the house, do this, do a X, Y, and Z. He always taught me a lot of sales skills, always be closing, ABCs, like those kinds of things. And so a lot of the skill set that I have is a lot of it's thanks to my dad. And so, yeah, I mean, he's imperfect. Yes, he physically beat the shit out of us multiple times. And it was difficult growing up. And I've had to do a lot of work on realizing that I'm safe and secure in who I am. Nothing's wrong with Jeremy. You know, I can continue to get better, and that's it. I can continue to show up day in, day out better than I did the day before. And so a lot of that's just been learning through difficulty, learning through, you know, there's times I miss my mom. Like I see other sons, like especially right now, I'm watching my 3-year-old son, how he's interacting with my wife and how much he just loves her and he's just attached to her and how much he cares for her. And seeing their relationship, it's hard. Like I was like, shit, man, like it would be really nice to have my mom.
Yeah. One thing that was going through my head, just hearing you talk about what you've been through and how you just kind of move through it like it's so easy. Like you've never
not, yeah.
Right, but like I'm just questioning in my head, like, does he know like how bad he had it? Like how unabnormal that was? Like that's not how it should have been at all.
Yeah.
So I think maybe having kids gave you that perspective of like, wow, like I wish.
For sure.
Man, like that would have been so awesome.
Well, my wife comes from like a really good family. My wife comes from like generations of like just good parenting, good, like just taking care of kids, like really good upbringing, really good, like healthy relationships, how to take care of their emotions. My wife is a freaking saint. She's amazing.
What are some, since we're on the topic, what do you mean by good parenting? Like, what are they doing? What do you mean by that? Like, what are some?
So what I mean by that is that they showed up for their kids. Like there was no conditions to their love. They never felt like there was ever anything wrong with them. You know,
yeah. I think what you said earlier, you touched on this earlier, but not reacting to them. I think that's so big. And we had this lady on our podcast a couple of years ago named Christy North, who talked about this, but she talked about how she was that parent. Like she would react, like if they did something wrong, she would yell at and scream at them, like, what are you doing? Because she wanted her kids to be X, Y, and Z. And then she lost one of her kids. One of them died. And that flipped her perspective, and she realized, like, if you want to have a good relationship with your kids and you want them to communicate with you and have difficult conversations with you, then when they come up to you and they just broke the glass dish, or they need help tying their shoe, or they like when they come up to you and they're telling you these things and you freak out, it's like when they grow up and something goes down and they need to talk to you, they're not going to talk to you.
No.
You freaked out when I broke I know I can't talk to you.
100%.
And I think parents, they don't see that, because what they say is, you can tell me anything.
Yeah.
And they say the right thing. You can come to me with anything. I'm here for you.
Yeah.
But that doesn't fucking matter, because you're screaming in my face whenever I come up and talk to you about anything.
Yeah, 100%.
That's worrisome to me. So I love that you said that. Is just, you need to make them feel unconditional love. And it's not your life. It's not your job to tell them they're going to be the next doctor or Steph Curry or whatever you want them to be. It's not you. So stop.
Yeah.
Stop. So that's some of my advice that I've learned from losing 2 kids is just let them talk, let them be heard, and treat them with love. And yeah.
Can I share an experience? So, like, when you came and talked to us about a year and a half ago, we were pretty new into the WAT program, We Are the They, with Jimmy Rex, and you came and shared your story about losing your wife and your kids and your brother and your, was it niece? Nephew. And I left that Ludus with a greater perspective on just how precious time is, because you don't know when your time is up with that individual, no matter who you come in contact with in life. And so you might as well just be present and love and enjoy every moment that you have.
Yeah, dude, tell me what you think of this. So, like, I grew up working my ass off in basketball. Like, I'm a 5'10" white kid from Utah, and I got like a Division I scholarship. Like, that's
pretty dang good.
Yeah, I worked my ass off.
Yeah.
And it's this whole idea of, like, you sacrifice now and then you get the reward later.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think that's just like American, like, that's just the motto. Like, work. And it's so true. Like, I'm not saying it's not true. And then I do this thing when I talk where I just give 4 examples and hope one of them sticks. So another example is, there's this marshmallow test they did with kids, and like, we'll give you a marshmallow. If you can wait 2 minutes, we'll give you a second marshmallow. So just seeing if they can wait. Of course, most kids couldn't. Or I don't remember what happened. But like now, and then I lose my wife, son, daughter, brother, nephew, and just dealing with grief. And grief does a good job of taking you out of the moment, because you're just thinking about them in the past or the future that you were supposed to have. Okay, all that to say, like, what if, like, all that is kind of bullshit? Like, you're giving up today for a future that doesn't exist, and you're never in the future. You're always in today. Mm-hmm. So if you're always sacrificing today for something, at what point are you living in the moment? And again, like, I don't think it's wrong. I think sacrificing now to get something, that's a good way to live life. Like, but there's a flip side to it too. And I think balance is really important. And I think some people get so hell bent on sacrifice now to get whatever later. And first of all, well, you can't control everything. So even though you are doing everything right, there's so many outside factors that the thing you're trying to get might not happen anyway. Mm-hmm. So if you're
there's no guarantee.
Yeah, if you're putting all your eggs in this later thing that can just be taken away with a sandstorm later, but you need to be in the moment as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do you regret anything with your wife and your kids?
Yeah, I regret. I mean, I think overall, no. I think I was a really good husband and a really good father, But after losing them, you do see the areas of like, man, like, why didn't I do more of that? Like, why didn't I listen to Courtney better? Why didn't I want to spend more time with my kids instead of watching so many college football games? Like, I do have those thoughts for sure. But, dude, the thing with regrets, they're impossible not to have.
Yeah.
No one's on their deathbed like, I don't have it. Like,
Yeah.
no, like, you can live the perfect life. Like, yeah, I wish I would have tried that ostrich burger too. Like, there's always something. Like, so yes and no. Yeah. Because I don't want to say no because I know I was good. I did the best I could. But now, no, with the knowledge I have from losing them, I could have done so much better.
Yeah. Well, you've gained a greater perspective, right? And
like being in a new relationship with Sammy is great because I do things better as a boyfriend. But it makes me feel guilty because I didn't give that to Courtney, and I'm able to do it for this girl now, and so I feel like really bad and guilty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I have guilt.
Yeah, I think it's natural to feel guilt. Guilt, from what I understand, guilt means I did something wrong. Shame means I am wrong, right?
Whoa. I talk about shame and guilt all the time. I like this. Say that again.
So guilt is I did something wrong, and shame is I am wrong. So that's how it's been explained to me.
I like that because we always say them together. I'm like, what's the fucking difference?
Yeah. And they're hugely contrast. Like one means like I'm wrong. Like something that I've dealt with in a lot of my life is shame and guilt. Like
I lied.
I did something wrong, so therefore I am wrong.
Guilt is your mom died and you think it's your fault, but it's not. Shame is,
I did something wrong, or I am wrong. Like I'm wrong because my mom died.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case. I think you can feel guilty for certain things, but really if you just enjoy the moment, if you just enjoy the time that you have with each individual that you come in contact with, it helps you have an infinite amount of better experience than you just feeling like, oh man, I could have done this better. I could have said this better. I should have done this. Instead of just like, what is what is.
Yeah. And I think being in the moment, it's not like you receive greater knowledge, like you're smarter now. It's just, it means more to you because it could be over so quick. And so it's not like, I don't know, it's not like you become a better, smarter individual. It just, everything gets more beautiful because it could fade away in an instant.
For sure. And I think that's one of the benefits of like your story and you telling your story and using this podcast, at least for me as a parent and as a husband, is that I cherish every moment that I get with my kids because I know that in any moment I could die, any moment my wife could die, any moment or any three of my kids
diagnosed with cancer.
100%.
That could happen. Yeah.
Could happen tomorrow.
To anyone, whenever.
Yeah. And so I think just having that greater perspective when people hear that story, it's like kind of a slap in the face. Like, oh, I've kind of taken this for granted.
Yeah, like when I was hanging out with Courtney and Riggins and Blue and Frankie, and now me, Sammy, and Blue are hanging out. It's not like we're doing different things or we're doing funner things. It's just, having lost some. Again, we've been saying this over and over, but it just makes you appreciate it more. When I was with Courtney and my kids, I just like, this is how it is and how it will always be. And like nothing bad's ever going to happen to us. And and then you're wrong.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of get you get into adulthood. Was there ever like, whether it was you seem like a very nice, in control person, but like you get into adulthood, did you ever notice your thought patterns, behavior, addictions, anything like that was maybe stemming from losing your mom or being abused as a kid your whole life and you didn't really know that yet?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what happens is we want to run away from our emotions or run away from feeling how we're feeling. And so we kind of look for what's going to give us pleasure, what's going to just kind of take away the pain or whatever. So when I was in foster care, I was exposed to sex pretty early on. I was exposed to sex when I was 10.
Sorry, what does that mean? Is like someone abusing you, or are you watching porn? Like someone's putting up, like, what do you mean?
So
sorry, you don't have to answer.
No. I'm trying to figure out the best way to. I guess there's not a better way to say it. So, I ended up sleeping with my foster sister. She wasn't biological by any means, but I mean, we were just kids.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, I mean, other kids in our foster home were also hypersexual because they were all, I mean, they're 16 years old. Not a lot of them are LDS, so it's like it's kind of socially acceptable.
Dude, I actually think sex is an addiction that people cope with that isn't talked about because it's very embarrassing.
For sure.
I use sex too to cope with it. Like, get me out of this
feeling
reality and put me somewhere else, and sex does a good job of doing that.
Yeah, numbing out. And I mean, and so I mean, I was exposed to pornography when I was 5. I mean, my brother and one of his friends found a porno magazine and we looked at it. And I think that's something to, as parents, like, we need to do a better job on trying to protect. And so luckily with my kids, like, I've been hyper vigilant about it, talking to them and being open about it.
But you're sexually active pretty young.
Yeah, super.
And that's a coping mechanism.
It was definitely. So my brother currently is 650 pounds. So his coping mechanism was food. So he would eat to try to take away the pain.
Dude, that's another one we don't talk a lot about.
No.
Is food.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so as a result of losing my mom and grief and just everything, because us as humans, we have that fight or flight mechanism, right? We want to either run or we want to fight. And a lot of us just don't want to deal with the emotion. And so we turn to coping mechanisms. A lot of people turn to addictions with drugs or different things just because it makes them feel better or makes them not have to feel. And so for me, a lot of my upbringing from the time I was 10 to, I mean, heck, even 2 years ago, pornography and sex was a coping mechanism for me. Yeah, I mean, and I had a lot of shame and guilt in and around it. A lot of shame and guilt.
Porn?
Yeah.
Dude, that's like 99% of the internet. And we all walk around like we're not looking at it.
100%.
Like we're all like, we can't be honest about that one. Yeah. Like, what? Pornhub? I've never heard of this. Like, what is that? What are they like? Dude, get like.
Yeah,
the stats are out there. Like, what are you talking about?
100%.
But we can't talk about that.
Yep.
There's no way we're talking about that.
So Jimmy does this really cool thing in Moab. He does this circle where he actually reads off like all these different scenarios, and one of them is like, "Have you lost a parent?" or "Have you been addicted to pornography?" or different things. So when he read that, addicted to pornography or viewed pornography within the last 6 months, like 99% of the guys stepped into the circle, and so like. I think it's something of epidemic proportions is that porn is damaging, in my opinion, because I feel like it's taking what's something that's so beautiful and amazing and is good. Sex is great, but taking it out of context and polluting it and making it seem like it's just for gratification.
Yeah, and like it's not reality.
It's not reality.
Like they don't do like. No.
Stop
trying to do that. She doesn't like that.
100%.
Like, it's not.
No, because honestly, I mean, our wives, they want to feel connection. They want to. They use sex to bond. Yeah. They use sex to be closer with their spouse. And guys need sex to feel like they're bonding with their spouse.
Yeah. I think there's a big biological part. Like we want to exist longer, and we want to have kids, and
I think we're programmed. Yeah,
and I'm with you. Like, I'm not gonna say pornography is not a problem. I think it changes the chemistry in your brain.
It does.
It's a drug, just like anything else.
For sure.
I do, though. I think in Utah, I think a lot of guys might think they have a porn addiction. It's like, no, you're actually doing very well.
Yeah, for sure.
But they look at I don't know.
But I think there's also the religious aspect. So taking it. So I left the church in 2018, and when I say leave the church, I just stopped going. So I'm inactive. But I went through this whole like morality, like what is morality? What is life after this? And I started getting really freaked out. And I think when you posted something a few weeks ago about, am I going to see Courtney again? Are you going to see Courtney again? Or am I going to see my mom again? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I hold on to that hope.
The pain, the moment I got the phone call, the moment I saw Frankie's dead body to now, that pain, like how hard my life is, the internal dialogue I have and self-hatred I have for myself is so bad. And it hurts so bad. It doesn't hurt like I'll see him again. That's not what it feels like. It doesn't feel like, oh, I'll see ya, and everything will be fine. That's not what it feels like. And so I have this big disconnect when people are like, you'll see him again. And I'm just like, well, okay, but that's not what the pains can. It feels like they're dead. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like they're not dead and they're waiting for me and I'll see me. And that's, I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality of it. Right. And I think what happens is people they want to empathize and
they want me to feel better. And that's, like, I'm not mad at anyone. Like, you're just saying
they're projecting what they believe. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, I don't have my wife and kids with me right now.
Yeah.
I don't have my mom with me right now. And that's the reality of it. And realistically, none of us know until we know. None of us know until we die whether we're going to see him again or not. And I think that just makes it even more important to realize that, like, our time here is finite. Our relationships are finite.
Again, back to being in the moment.
It's back
like maybe
to being
eat
present.
The fucking marshmallow because you might not get a second one. And now you have no marshmallows.
100%.
Like, yeah.
I think there's something to be said about disproportionate outcomes, right? If you want to, like what you were saying, is like you have to delay the gratification today to be able to achieve whatever you want to get in the future, right? Usually it's by talking to someone that has actually done the work to get to that point. And talking to other people, they're like, okay, based on what this guy has told me, if I do X, Y, and Z for X amount of years or whatever, I should be able to achieve this goal or this dream or whatever it is. So it's worth the sacrifice, right? But I also think taking it with a grain of salt of just taking time and just enjoying certain things in the moment and being present. I think that's the biggest thing, is not realizing that you got to work, that you got to do those things, right? You got to provide a better future for your kids, your family, but it's also enjoying and being present, and not sacrificing what's truly important, not losing that vision.
No, I like that a lot. And I think you can be in the moment. Okay, so let's use my basketball example again.
Yeah.
Like I'm putting in 5-6 hours a day, like just shooting and dribbling and shooting. And I'm sacrificing time with friends, and there's things I'm missing out on.
Yeah.
And my mindset was, all right, sacrifice now, I get the scholarship later. And yeah, that's great. But like, I also think if I'm in the moment and I just love basketball and I just love playing and that's what I want to do in the moment, then it's very much the same thing.
Yeah.
It's going to get you to the same place.
Mm-hmm.
But the perspective is just different. Instead of me hating practice and like, but I'm doing it to get the scholarship, I actually just love basketball.
Yeah.
And my love for basketball is what makes me want to practice. And
I think it's enjoying the journey, right?
Right. Yeah.
You have to learn to just enjoy what you're going through. Yeah. Just enjoy like the process and like understanding that you're not perfect. And I think that'll show up more and more, especially as you're raising Blue and all of that is just realizing, I'm not going to be a perfect dad. I'm going to make mistakes, but I'm going to also own up and try to love you and be there. I'm not going to always be there for you.
Right.
But I'm going to try my best to always be there for you.
What has been it being in these men's groups? What has that done for you?
So I didn't realize like the path that I was on was pretty self-destructive. Like the combination of, so when I left the church,
we've been skipping all around.
We have been going all around, but
sexually active when you're young.
So
then you left the church, the LDS church.
Yeah, I left the church in 2020,
which is
not 2020, 2018,
which is very hard. And scary,
for sure.
That's grief in its own right there. I think.
Oh, for sure. It's like I had tied up so much of my identity in the church too.
That's your worldview.
Yeah, I mean, I went on an LDS mission. I was a branch president on my mission. I got home from my mission.
Where'd you go?
I went to Guatemala.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And then I got home from my mission, met my wife 3 weeks after I got home. And then as soon as we got married, we were called on campus at BYU, Idaho. And I was in a bishopric for 2 years on campus.
How old were you?
I was 22.
You were wow.
So
you were in it.
I was in it.
You were in it.
I thought I was on the path to being an apostle.
You're a 70. You're in it.
I was headed to be the next prophet. No, and honestly, that's what I thought. I thought like, okay, my spirituality is a direct reflection of who I am and like my life and all of this. And
spirituality is a direct reflection of who I am.
Yeah.
That's what it was for me. Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then on top of that, during that time, I'm still addicted to pornography. I'm still struggling with the guilt and the shame of that. So it's like, here I'm talking on the pulpit about this stuff. And I'm like, but I'm also like having this. And so I'm feeling a hypocrite. I'm feeling all of those feelings. And so I've dealt that I remember in my youth when I was like 16 or 17, having so much shame and guilt and around being addicted to pornography, just like being obsessed with it, looking at it for hours, to the point where I was like, I hated my life. I hated who I was. And I actually grabbed my dad's gun and stuck it in my mouth. And I thought that was the end. I thought that was going to be the end. And I'm so, so grateful that I never pulled that trigger. Because I wouldn't have had my beautiful daughter, Harper. I would have never met my beautiful daughter, Penny. And I would have never had my beautiful son, Nolan. And so much of the good in my life wouldn't have happened had I pulled that trigger. And I think what happens when life gets tough, you lose a spouse, you lose a brother, you lose a parent, that you think that you're always going to feel this way. You think the darkness is never going to go away, that there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And I think you just need to take a moment to breathe and take a moment to just step back. And it's hard. It's hard. I had a really good buddy in June of last year. We were really close. Committed suicide. Left his son and his daughter and his wife. And I think about that. I think about what could have been, could have happened. And I think people get stuck in that mode. They get stuck in that things aren't going to get better. And I think, again, this is my opinion. This is the gospel of Jeremy Macy. That if we just take a moment to just breathe, take a moment to just kind of gather ourselves and not to emotionally react, that eventually it'll subside. Eventually that feeling will go away. And I think it just continued to march on. I mean, I just ran a marathon, and there's a time when you hit that wall and it's like, shit, I don't know if this pain's ever going to end. Luckily, in a marathon, you know that there's a finish line.
My legs are cramping.
My legs are cramping. My feet are pounding.
My side is
everything. You can't breathe. Old people are passing you. And you're just like, well, shit, man.
Why did I sign up for this?
100%. And I think if you could just take a moment to breathe, to something that I've learned being in these men's groups that you've talked about is just a greater perspective that usually someone has it worse than you. So it's like, I lost my mom and I went through a pretty shitty childhood. But I also gained a greater perspective. I feel like I have a greater outlook on life. I'm a lot more present with my kids and everything. But then I meet Mason Sawyer, and he lost his wife and kids, and like, shit.
And then Mason Sawyer meets Carrie Bolger.
Yeah.
Or Gillian Tinkel. And yeah, like I'm not the only one with a sad story either.
Yeah. Have you heard, do you know the lady that started Annie Ant or Aunt Annie, the pretzel makers that you see everywhere?
Mm-mm.
So she has a pretty unique story. She was on Ed Milet's podcast, and you wouldn't think this, but she didn't start Annie Ann's until she was like 43. But her sister ran over her daughter, her 4-year-old daughter, and killed her. And as a result of that, she turned to the church. Her pastor raped her. And after going through that, she wanted a divorce. She wanted to push everyone away, and she just spiraled out of control. And it took her husband, that he loved her enough to just stay there with her, even though she was pushing and fighting and wanting away. That he was like, I'm here for you. If you want to leave, I'll help you pack, but I'm always going to be here for you. And I think there's certain people that come into our lives that no matter what, they will love you. And maybe that's Sammy for you. For me, it's Jessie, my wife. And I see how my wife treats my children. And I'm just like, fuck, man. That would have been really nice having growing up. And I'm sure, like, as you get further down the path and, if you get married or whatever, you're just like, man, I could have had this with Courtney. I could have had this with my kids. And it gives you, I guess it makes the moment more special. It makes like what's actually going on in your life that much more special, because the kids don't know any different. And people that haven't lost a spouse or haven't lost a parent, they just don't know. And I think that's why it's important to share our stories. I think that's why it's important to continue to talk about it, because it gives people a platform or a way to kind of process the grief and feel. And for me, it's just a reaffirmation that, it's important to have a healthy couple in a relationship when raising a kid, because you're not going to always have the answers. Something that always helps me and with Jessie is like, whenever our kids are losing their shit and I'm about to lose my shit on them,
stop pulling your sister's hair.
100%. Or like all of that. Luckily, I have my wife that can step in and kind of be the calm one and take care of the kids or do something. Or vice versa. When she's losing her shit, I'm able to be there. It's like that tandem, right? I have a newfound respect just from my upbringing of parents who are single raising children.
It's hard, man.
So hard.
especially when you're grieving too. Like, ugh, it's hard.
Yeah, because in this perspective, it could be my dad in your shoes.
No, that's why I was excited to have you on. Is like, yeah, and you're very much in blue shoes.
Yeah.
But I think I interviewed this lady, Nicole Hughes in Tennessee, and she's just spent like she's a badass. She got like national laws changed. Her kid drowned, and so she got like all these laws changed. Anyway, she's really cool, and she just kept talking about how like you don't need to do anything like this to make your grief mean something. Or she wanted to like get that point across. Like you can just be a normal person and change the world too. And I agree with her. And the reason I bring that up is, dude, your mom dies, your dad abuses you. You go to your uncle. I was gonna say it gets worse, or it's just awful.
It was a different type of abuse.
Awful over there. And then you're a great dad to 3 kids. You don't lay a finger on them. You and your wife are. That's how you change the world. Like that. Like it ain't podcasting. It ain't a cool Twitter quote. Dude. Like the impact that you stopped that abuse that's been running. I mean, you said it.
Yeah.
Your dad had it worse than you.
Yeah.
His dad, like, and you were able to stop that, dude. And that's, I mean, and that's the biggest thing in my book.
Yeah. That's how I feel, is like you can either let the buck stops with you and you can change and be that catalyst for change.
Or like my dad hit me and I hit you, and why are you so mad about it? Like,
you could perpetuate it. Right? Like you either can use experiences. I mean, like you say, you talk about this all the time, 90-10, 10% of what happens to you, 90% is how you react to it. When I went to therapy and started working through a lot of the shame and guilt that I had felt from my pornography addiction, and then processing grief and processing all of these emotions that I just crammed down and just wasn't willing to work through. That I realized that like you can let life's experiences make you better, or you can make them worse. And so I just have always chosen to use the experiences that have happened in my life to make me better.
Yeah.
And it's like that. I mean, it's a choice. I mean, doesn't mean I don't have addictions, doesn't mean I don't have problems, doesn't mean that I'm a perfect human being, but it means that I'm still trying. I'm still taking that march. And I know that there's brighter days.
Yeah, I think I was talking to my therapist, Matt, and he's like, how you doing? I'm like, it's been rough. Like, I want to die, but I don't want to die, kind of in that gray area. And he's like, damn, like, he's like, how have you been getting through that? And I responded and I said, this is exactly what you just said. I said, when I'm in those dark, it sounds dramatic, but like that pit of despair, like truly, like when I get in those moments, from my experience of being there so many times now, I know it won't last forever.
Yeah.
And I told him that. I'm like, that's been a big help, is I can breathe and just cry and try to breathe and cry. And then eventually I'm going to get to anger, which will swing me back into gratitude, which will swing me into depression and then denial or whatever. But like no emotion's going to last forever. And grief comes in waves, and it's going to feel like you can't do it. And real quick, back to like suicide ideation and taking your own life. I've learned through podcasting that the moment matters. Like it's very spontaneous sometimes. Like these moments get so extreme and they can't see it any way out ever that they take
you don't think about it. It's not like,
but really, like what I've learned is if you could get them through that night, they might be good again for a while. But sometimes it's just so in the moment, and then you have alcohol and drugs involved, which doesn't help when you're in that moment, and not good.
Yeah.
But it won't last forever. It will come in waves. And I mean, it's going to last forever. As I tell people all the time, like grief lasts forever. It's a life sentence. It is, in terms of it's always going to be there. It'll always come back.
Well, there's reminders, right?
Right. But it comes in waves.
Yeah.
And that's helped me. at least for now. You're running marathons now. How's that helped you?
So I in like 2019, I was pretty overweight. I was about 50 pounds heavier than what I am today. And I just felt like I needed to do something physical to help my mental.
Well, you did something.
Yeah.
You ran a marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been working towards that for 4 years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
Yeah. So my goal last year was a 5-minute mile. I did that. And then this year was to run a marathon. And then I did that. So now it's like, okay, I was talking to my wife on the drive back on Sunday. I was like, do I go and try to fight for Boston? I mean, is that the next step? Like, I just don't know. Like, for me, I feel like I could do it if I put forth the time and effort to make it happen. I think it's always important to continue to push yourself. I think it's always important to continue to try to achieve, maybe not try to achieve, but maybe just to continue to push yourself out of the comfort of what your life is. Yeah. Because I think when you get uncomfortable, that's kind of who you find out who you are. So if you're not willing to be uncomfortable, then I mean, who are you really, right? Yeah. You find out truly who you are when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, it's revealed.
It is.
And if you don't like it, you can change, though.
Yeah.
Talking about it is the way to change, or at least one of the first steps.
Yeah. Yeah.
They let you listen to music when you run?
Yeah. So I actually just listened to a book as I was running.
Oh, really? I was gonna say, what Metallica songs you listened to?
Oh, dude.
You just listened to...
I was listening to a book, but I also... Dude, I'm so diverse in my music. I mean, I grew up listening to all different types of music. I was really into Screamo.
AFI.
As I Lay Dying. Have you ever? Yeah. From Autumn to Ashes. My favorite band is Thrice, if you know Thrice.
Yeah, I know Thrice.
Yeah. So Thrice is my favorite band.
Perfect Circle.
Perfect Circle.
Have you ever heard of them?
Mm-mm. Oh. You know, you're a big Metallica fan.
How did you know?
Your shirt and everything. But no, dude, like, I think it's yeah, I mean, music for me is such an outlet. Like, I've really diversified like what I listen to. I get into techno. I'll listen to alt J, like some indie stuff. I'm
a little indie rock.
Yeah, I like indie rock a lot. Portugal the Man.
I love Metallica. They're my favorite band ever. It's not close. My favorite genre of music is probably folk rock, though.
Folk rock,
like
really?
Simon and Garfunkel.
Oh, there you go.
Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
The Lumineers. Like, I really love...
Like old school stuff?
Yeah.
And what about new stuff, like Mumford and Sons and different things?
I'm just a sucker for a guitar with an occasional banjo. And then, like, I love that type of music. I love the pace of it. I love the guitar, and I love how the lyrics, man, you can hear the lyrics so good with the guitar. I think it's a beautiful genre of music. Yeah.
No, I agree. I think you really appreciate the talent that it takes.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever tried playing guitar and singing at the same time?
I'm going to learn how to play Nothing Else Matters. I'm like, oh my God. How do they make their fingers do that?
100%.
Because I play Guitar Hero in high school. Man, I can learn this. Like, this isn't Guitar Hero. My fucking pinkies looks like I broke it playing linebacker in the NFL. It's like, how do I make it go that way? It's very hard.
Yeah. I mean, I remember growing up, I really wanted to be in a punk rock band. I was like, I'm going to be in a punk rock band.
Okay, you have to answer this question in 5 seconds.
Okay.
It's got to be a quick hitter. Me, you, Ryan are starting a band tonight. What is our name? Go. 5.
Oh, shit. I don't know,
2,
dude.
1, you lose. You're done.
I lost. That was, yeah. Funny enough, dude, I went to a jazz game. I'll tell you a quick story. I went to a jazz game, and this was when I was drinking. I don't drink anymore, but
sure.
I was yeah. I like cannabis. That's my thing that I choose. But I was drinking before the jazz game. Some cheerleaders came up to us and asked if we would be in a competition during the game. This is during 2020.
Great start to the night.
So we're wearing masks and everything. We're like, okay, for sure. So they call us up before the second half or before the second quarter, and we go up to this room that's outside of the stadium and everything, so you can't see anything. And they're like, okay, put on the headphones. I'm like, oh shit. So I'm gonna have to think on my feet. And so I put on the headphones. They asked my friend this question. I was thinking about cheating and like listening, but I didn't. Kept the headphones on. And then they come to me. They're like, okay, name as many jazz players or as many former jazz players as you can in 15 seconds. Go. And I was like, Stockton, Kirilenko. And I blanked. I named 2 the whole time.
How many did your buddy get?
He got 6.
Yeah.
And so what's crazy though is the KSL article that came out after that said the worst in-game contest in NBA history ever.
Blowout.
Oh, dude. So
because you were drinking. That's why you don't drink.
Oh, that's why you don't drink.
You're gonna forget jazz
because
players.
you can't think on your feet.
Can't remember jazz players.
Can't remember. Yeah, Andre Kirilenko and.
Yeah, right. That's well said.
100%. No, dude. Maybe if we were to start a band, maybe we'd say 2 gingers and a bald guy.
I was thinking someone with red hair. Are you a ginger?
No, I'm like a blonde, like strawberry blonde.
Ryan, can I say ginger? Is that allowed? Is that? Oh, sorry.
I mean, we were never oppressed through slavery, so.
Well, we were. Irish were.
There you go.
New York got pretty bad.
Really?
I won't talk about that.
Yeah. I'm actually reading a book right now. Have you ever heard of Red Rising?
I haven't.
It's freaking good. You would love it.
You would love
it. Yes, for sure. But it's all about like how society has separated into colors, and the reds are actually the slaves, and they've been slaves for 700 years, and they have to basically fight to get unoppressed. And the golds are the ones that control society. It's super good. So highly recommend it. It's really, really good.
Well, now I want to get into our top 3 favorite movies, but do you have anything else you want to say about 90% or anything else?
Yeah, I think I would just say 2 things. The darkness never lasts. I think when you're going through something difficult, whether it's grief, whether it's depression, whether it's not feeling like you measure up to things, I think just learning to just take a breath and understand that things will get better.
Yeah.
If you just give it time. I mean, when you measure at a longer pace instead of in moments, and you start looking in years and decades, life generally gets better. Yeah. In general. So when I look at my childhood, yes, it was difficult, but it gave me a greater perspective and helps me be a better father and a better husband. Yeah. And then number 2 is just be present. You know, it's really easy nowadays, especially with phones. And I'm not perfect. I mean, I do a lot of my jobs on my phone, and my kids don't always understand that. But learning to just truly be present, because, you know, you never know when that time comes up with that individual. You never know what they're going through. Someone usually always has it worse than you do. So just learning to appreciate the person that's across from you, because you can always learn something from each person that you come in contact with.
What do you think has made you so open and vulnerable? And I mean, you're talking about pornography. You're talking about very embarrassing things, but you do it very how'd you get like that?
I think it's because I've had to work through it. I mean, I've had to try to heal from it. I mean, so my therapy that I go to is specialized in sex addiction. And a lot of that is, most addictions actually stem from childhood trauma. Yeah. If you actually, there's Dr. Gabel. If you ever go up and look him up, he's really big on ayahuasca.
If it's not a professional athlete, I probably don't know who it is.
Oh, okay. Anyways, he's
Ed Milet.
Yeah, he's this big guru, whatever. He's like a Tony Robbins guy. Anyways, but yeah, I would just say that it's easy to talk about it because I've work through a lot of the trauma of it. And I've been open with my wife.
Can I ask you, like, what helps a pornography addiction? Like, what are some things that really helped you deal with that? I think exercise, like the marathon, I think that's big.
Oh yeah, physical,
like a schedule, exercise helps.
Yeah, I wake up. I mean, we're creatures of habit, right?
Yeah.
So physically, like first thing that I do when I wake up is I go work out. So when I wake up, I go work out. I usually try to get sun. Is just try to have a regiment to not get bored, because I mean, you've probably heard this growing up. Idle hands are a devil's playground, right?
Yeah.
I think what happens is when we get bored, that's when we get into trouble. And I think learning to just kind of channel that energy, that boredom to something.
Yeah. Stay busy.
And I think just choosing, and then when you struggle, like, shit, I'm feeling like I'm really wanting to numb out right now. And that's usually what pornography is for most guys, is to numb out, or it's a quick release.
Yeah. No pun intended.
Yeah. For some people. But yeah, I think it's just learning to be okay in your own skin. Yeah. And so meditation for me has been huge. It doesn't work for everyone. I think it just takes pushing through, just like with running, just like with anything, is learning to break through those barriers, the things that are like, oh man, this is really struggle, or I struggle to do this. And I watch my language. I focus on like what I say and how I say things.
Yeah, watch your language. That's probably a good fucking idea.
But I mean, what I mean by watching your language is like the things that you say actually are like confirmation. Like, man, like if I were to say, man, I find it really hard to be proud of myself, that actually reinforces it to you. Yeah. So not trying to say things that actually demean you or demean anything that you kind of do. So I just kind of really purposeful with.
That's something that I struggle with, is the internal self-hatred.
What do you hate?
I think a lot of it is connected to race. I should have been in the car. And if everything else went the same, at least Race and Ryder are okay, and Keisha and them are, their family's whole, and our family just gets wiped out. I feel like that would have been a lot better. I didn't go to the family reunion, and I always go to them, and I believe in family's number one, and I wasn't there. And I wasn't there for my kids. I wasn't there for my wife. I didn't go through what they went through, that hell. That's why I got into tattoos. Like, dude, can you just like hurt me? Because they hurt. They do. So I want to hurt because they probably got hurt. I feel bad for feeling happy.
But don't you think that you're...
Yeah, they do. That's the... Yeah. And that's why I'm still here, or part of it. And that's why... And I am happy. That's the fucked up thing. I think I am happy, but I'm not. It's like both.
Yeah.
But I do like... A lot of it, I kind of... Because you think about it so much. So I find ways to make it my fault, just like you did with your stuff. Like, it was my fault. I shouldn't have taken the job. I should have stayed up north. Just all the... I thought about taking the shuttle down and surprising them and driving back with them. I feel like that would have changed things, and I didn't do that. So it's a day. I hit all of them every day. I go through all the lists of ways to feel bad in hopes that they'll go away. And I think they haven't gone away, but they've become more manageable. Being around Courtney's family really helps. Like, they love me, and that helps with the guilt. Like, well, if they love me, then maybe it's okay.
Yeah. I don't think there's a maybe about it.
Yeah.
I think... I mean, there's things that are outside of your control, right? There's certain things like... I think someone told me, like, you should always stay away from I should or should have, should not. It's either I did or I did not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because those are factual, right?
And-
those are based in.
And the other shitty thing about that is it takes me out of the moment.
It does.
Like, and I'm at Blues basketball practice, but in my head, I'm like somewhere else. And then I feel bad about that. Like, well, now I'm not in the moment for my kid. So why am I even here then? If I'm not, why am I here? I don't want to be here. So if I'm not doing a good job here, why am I, it's, and then I hit the other curve. Like, dude, your wife, Courtney, is amazing. You think Courtney would just cry? No, she would help people with this and she would do something about it. Do you know how cool your brother was? You think Race would mope around all day? He would want to. And so that hits me. And I'm like, yeah, let's go tackle this thing. And then it's just a cycle, man. You just go round and round. But I will say the round and round, it's gone from 1,000,000 miles an hour and it's gone slower, which has helped.
Yeah.
Before I was just spinning like.
Yeah. I mean, this is still so fresh. I mean, what, 3 years
3
ago?
years, which, man, before the accident, if you'd have said 3 years, I'd have been like, that's a long time. And now that's nothing. I mean, that doesn't sound like much.
I mean, perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like 3 years flies by. Blue is what, 7, 6?
And that's the other thing. Like, I saw my niece Olivia today, who's just she's like, I don't even know, 11, 12. And she just looks like she's getting old. And Riggins was like one of her best buddies and right around her age. And so I'm just looking at her, I'm like, man, Riggins would be looking like this. And it just broke my heart. And so I'm in the driveway with my in-laws and we're having a pleasant conversation and we're laughing and it's good. But in my head, I'm like crying and I miss Riggins. Yeah. So it's just like, I think having so many people, everything just reminds you of them all the time. And it's just hard. Top 3 favorite movies now?
I love how open you are, man. Like I love that you just feel it. Like you just wear your heart on your sleeve. And I think
I'm sure you can relate. Like I don't have enough energy. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah. You just kind of are
I
you.
think you're the same way. Like I'm impressed. Yeah. Like, and you said the same thing. Like there's no other option.
Yeah. There's no.
I have to talk about it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's like, I never want to quit.
Yeah.
I never want to quit. I mean, there's times, when life gets tough and it's difficult and it's fucking dark. I mean, it's really fucking easy to want to just quit and be done.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's like, no, my kids need a father.
It's not about you.
It's not about me. And I think what happens is we focus so much on ourselves. And when we start to feel and then we kind of spiral, if we just focused on others, I think that helps. And I think what you're doing helps, like focusing on others and helping them process their grief.
Yeah.
Also helps heal you.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Finding that connection, man.
Yeah.
Has saved me.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. That saved me. I thought I was alone for so long.
You're not.
Yeah. Everyone's just going through it. And if you're not, like, you're in line, like, you'll get your chance.
Yeah. 100%. And that's the one thing is everyone dies.
Everyone dies. If someone you love, they're going to die.
Yeah.
And if you're the one that dies first, then you'll cause the pain for everyone else.
100%.
So, like, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So you might as well be present and just enjoy and create memories.
Stop the comparison. Just be you.
Yeah.
Just be you.
Yeah.
Don't worry about being anyone else.
Yeah.
Because it's too short. That takes you out of the moment too. This comparison, man, we're gonna be talking forever.
I know.
I could talk to you forever.
Yeah, dude. I think 100%. I think you might as well just live a fucking life that is worth remembering.
That is your life instead of. I think my dad wants me to be a dentist.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. You're like asking your buddies, like, do you think my girlfriend's hot? Like, what? Well, I'm not dating her. What are you talking about? I don't care. What do you?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yep.
Like, what do you think though? I'm like, dude, I don't care for this question. Yeah.
Someone ask you that?
Yeah. Not recently, but
okay.
Like look at this girl I'm dating. Like, oh, like, do you think she's cute? I'm like,
he wants you to validate how he feels.
Like, Yeah, no. Actually, no, but I don't want to say that. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
Movies?
Movies, top 3 movies. Okay.
Start with number 3. 3, 2, 1.
So the top 3, I mean, they could all be interchanged, right? Have you watched Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No.
This is the second time this has come up.
Fucking amazing. One of the best movies ever.
Is that on Netflix right now?
I don't know.
What is it?
Everything Everywhere All at Once. It won 7 Academy Awards. It's the first movie to have won 7. I think the last one was like 6 or whatever. I went and saw it high as a kite with my brother and his buddy, and because I didn't know what it was. It's an A24 movie, and A24 is just really unique. They're a really good studio, but it's kind of crazy. It's like multiverse, like everything's kind of different, and it's funny and different.
What actors are in it?
The gal from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
The gal. I haven't heard gal in a while. I'm bringing gal back.
The lady. Yeah, she's and then the guy from Indiana Jones, the Mr. Jones.
Okay, yeah.
So he's grown up. He's the dad.
I'm going to check this movie out.
Dude, it's incredible. It's incredible. So it's basically the mom. It's from her perspective.
Don't tell me anything else. I'm done. I want to go in fresh.
Okay, it's great. It's amazing. You're going to love it. You'll laugh. You'll cry. Like, I just watched it the other night, and I love it. It's a comfort movie. Dark Knight, Batman. That one's just so good.
Joker's too good.
Joker's so good. And he kind of immortalized the Joker by dying.
Wow, like Heath Ledger dying.
And immortalized him because he was a method actor. So he actually was acting as the Joker outside of the scenes.
That's what I heard. Like he was the Joker, yeah.
So he kind of went crazy a little bit and had to take sleeping pills, and that's what led to him.
Yeah.
ODing.
Hell of a movie, though.
Hell of a movie. And then number 1. I mean,
I love how serious you're taking this.
I'm a huge movie buff. I'm a huge movie buff. I think Shawshank Redemption.
My dad would just give you a kiss right now.
Shawshank Redemption. I mean, it was a toss-up between Forrest Gump and Shawshank Redemption.
Get busy living
or get busy dying.
Which could sum up our podcast episode.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get busy living or get busy dying. 100%.
Yeah, I remember I fell in love with that movie as a little kid.
And then number 4. I'll go one above. Doom Part 2.
I've heard it's awesome.
Oh, dude.
Doom 1 was
it is so good. It is
watched twice.
Yeah. I've watched, I mean, there's this clip, and my therapist has talked about what he says when Duke Leto is dying. He's about to die.
Dude, I don't know if I want to know this.
This is in part 1. Have you watched part 1?
Yeah, but I was high as a kite.
Okay. There you go. He's dying, right? And he's like, here I am and here I remain. And then he bites the capsule and kills everyone that's in the room with him. And I love what he says there is that it doesn't matter what the fuck's going on in life, is that here I am and here I remain. And I think as men, we just need to be that rock and that steady person. Some people say, be a rock in a hurricane, so that all the world can be chaos and everything going on around you. But if you can just be comfortable in your own skin and good with yourself, the rest of the world will take care of itself.
I like it.
So
good movie list. I got some movies I got to watch tonight.
There you go.
Thanks again, man. You're amazing. Thanks for opening up, being vulnerable. Thanks for being a great dad, dude.
Thanks, man.
Life's 10% what happens to you and 90% what you're going to do about it.